freestyle travel. Hello, everybody, again. Welcome to episode 2 of the Freestyle Travel Show. I'm your host, Kenny Flannery. This episode's about hitchhiking. How to do it, what to expect. By the end of this, you'll be hitchhiking all over the place. No problem. But first, this is where I'd usually mention some sponsors. It's early going, so I don't have any. But I will say that I'm a member of the Amazon affiliate program, and I earn a commission on all the links through my websites, which just means on hobolifestyle.com or freestyletravelshow.com. If you click one of the Amazon banners, or actually if you go to hobolifestyle.com and go to the gear page, I've got a bunch of links to specific stuff that I like water filters and sleeping bags, and even a beard trimmer that I think is the smallest possible beard trimmer you can get away with. Traveling with that still works. Stuff like that. If you click any of those links and then you purchase any of that stuff, or actually if you purchase anything after clicking those links, even the stuff I don't recommend, get a little commission. So that's cool. And the only other thing I'll plug, just because I really like it, this is unofficial, is Google Project Fi, which is Google's phone service, and they actually use existing phone service. Other towers that are already there, like T-Mobile's towers in the US, and it's all over the world. And the cool thing about it is that it just costs $20 a month, but it's the same all over the world. So you don't pay more because you're in Mexico or Australia or Malaysia or whatever. It's the same as being in the US price-wise. And it's actually really cool because you don't have to get a SIM card. So like when I landed in Australia, coming from the US, for example, as soon as I landed, I just had service. So I could check on couch surfing stuff while I was still there in the airport and don't have to mess with anything. But whatever, I can talk about it more at the end of the show. But if you use my promo code when you sign up, you get $20 off, and I get $20 off, which is basically a month free. You pay a little bit for data, but that code is TDW3EE. I'll mention it again at the end of the episode, but alright. Forget all that. Let's jump into where I am now, which is Nepal. I just came from Malaysia. I guess episode 1 I recorded there in Thailand, in Trong, Thailand. After that, I hitchhiked down over the border, got to Kuala Lumpur. Pretty easy. Stayed with a couple different couch surfers there. It's pretty fun. One guy was from Nepal, which was cool because that's where I am now, and he was telling me all about it. And the other guy was actually a celebrity hairstylist. That's what he called himself. He had his own salon and stuff. It was pretty funny. He just had like almost a cardboard cutout of himself in the window. It said celebrity hairstylist. But he actually gave me a haircut, which was cool, for free. We hung out and drank all over the city and stuff, and he wants to backpack one day, so he was picking my brain. And that was pretty fun. Caught the flight here to Kathmandu, and I've been staying with a friend of a friend, for the last couple nights. But this is pretty cool, actually. So the reason I'm in Nepal is part of a contest that I won through Sierra Nevada Brewery, which is one of my favorite breweries. And this is the second contest I've won through them. The first one was Beer Camp, which is amazing. But yeah, I'm gonna have a whole episode just about beer. Just you wait, it's gonna be good. Yeah, this contest was a photo contest. They said upload a photo with this hashtag, an adventure photo, and win a chance to win a trip. And long story short, I won. So I got to choose this website called theclimb.com, I think it's called. All these different adventures, somewhere in the United States, which I wasn't going to do because Sierra Nevada also said they were going to pay for the flight. So I'm like, I might as well get the most out of this as I can. Somewhere in Costa Rica is one to the Galapagos. That was tempting. And I pretty much narrowed it down to I either want to go to this South Africa trip that also goes to Tanzania and stuff. And then there's one in Nepal, which had like the most fun, crazy stuff going on. And it was still far. And the guy I've been staying with the last couple nights, I actually met him when I was debating this in California. And, you know, being from Nepal, he easily talked me into choosing this trip. So here I am. And it's going to be a 10-day adventure. So the first couple days I've been here, I've just been hanging out with him and his friends, and they're all dug right into Kathmandu. I mean, it seems like every single one of his friends that I met owns like a garment store. One guy owned a supermarket, some other shops. They travel all the time, party like maniacs, have a lot of fun. So we've been doing a little bit of that the last couple days, but now officially I've checked into this hotel, which is part of the whole package thing, which is not my typical way of traveling, so it's going to be fun. But there's bungee jumping and rafting and paragliding. There's going to be some biking, I guess, some trekking. It's going to be a crazy 10 days. So I'm in the hotel now. I haven't really met anyone. So I guess we all meet in the lobby tomorrow. I have no concept if there's going to be a couple people or 20 people. I don't know. We'll find out, and I'll update you guys on the episodes to come. Other than that, as far as hobolifestyle.com, personal site where I post all my stories, I guess the most recent thing I posted there is a bunch of tips for sleeping while traveling. I'll do an episode about that on the podcast here too. But if you want to go, hobolifestyle.com, places to sleep while traveling is the latest post on there. And I just get into everything from couch surfing, which I'll also do a full episode on, to camping, to staying in hostels, and all kinds of different little tricks and places to sleep while traveling. So check that out if you want to. But let's get into this episode, which is about hitchhiking. And let's jump right into it. Hitchhiking. This is my favorite way to get around. I've hitchhiked hundreds of thousands of miles at this point in dozens of countries. I've gotten, I don't know how many thousands of rides, individual rides over the years. It's just a really fun way to travel. It's sometimes the most convenient way too, even more so than a bus or anything, because you can just choose when you want to go to the road. There's no schedule. Choose where you want to stop, hop out anywhere, that kind of thing. Meet all kinds of people. Some people will take you in for the night. Some people will get you a snack, tell you a story, change your life, stay in touch with them. Not everyone. In fact, I only stay in touch with a very small percentage of the people who pick me up. But there's been a lot of people, so there are quite a few people I am still in touch with. Good friends, actually. So if you're considering hitchhiking, or you're already hitchhiking, I just wanted to tell you basic ways to do it. Some tips, how long it usually takes, how it varies in different states and different countries, when to use signs, when not to use signs, good clothing to wear, the exact spots where you can hitchhike. I'm going to go over some tricks for getting out of bigger cities that can be kind of annoying. And I'll just kind of touch on sleeping along the way for when you're going longer distances. So, all right, let's start with where to start. So, there's a major interstate, highway, that kind of thing. It's good to get to the on-ramp, heading in the direction you're going, obviously. And it's important to make sure that there's room for a car to pull over. Obviously, you can do it without that room. I've hitchhiked in LA a bunch of times, which I don't like to do. And there's usually no shoulder on the on-ramp. So if you have to and you're just kind of stuck there, you can kind of grind it out, but you're basically counting on someone just willing to brake and hold up traffic for 30 seconds while you pop in. But ideally, that's not the best. So you want to find a spot with some room to pull over. And if you have some kind of choice, like you got a friend that'll give you a ride initially, or you can do some walk-in, ideally, most of the time you want to go to the spot that's on the edge of town that you're going. So if you're in, let's say, Sacramento, and you're going north, you want to be on the north side of Sacramento. And if you can get to a spot where there is a truck stop or a bunch of fast food or another area where people traveling, road tripping, have an excuse to stop, fill up their gas, fill up their bellies, those are good spots to be too. Besides on-ramps, you can also go on the road itself. Obviously, if this is like a country road or whatever, it's pretty easy. I like to walk, personally, if I can. I like to walk while I hitchhike, as long as, the road doesn't start getting narrower or whatever. But that's just my preference. Some people prefer not to walk, especially people who still have gigantic backpacks. It's not as comfortable. But if you're on major interstates, let's take the United States, for example. Most states, it's illegal to walk on the interstate. There are some exceptions where it's okay. But I still do it anyways because it's like way more convenient. Say you get dropped off somewhere and the on-ramp is just in the middle of nowhere and no one's getting on the highway in that spot. It's pointless to just wait there for the one magic ride that may or may not come that quickly. So I'll just walk up to the highway anyways, and I'll either stand right where the on-ramp meets the main traffic, or I'll start walking. And yeah, sometimes the cops will come and say, you can't be up here. But if you just kind of play dumb, if you do encounter the cops and just like, oh, I wasn't sure, or yeah, I'm really trying to get off too, this is not the best spot. And just be nice, Usually the cops have been nice. I've gotten probably close to 100 rides from police. And, I've ridden in the back seat, the front seat. Sometimes it's been friendly. Sometimes it's been borderline just tense. That's pretty rare. Usually it's friendly. And, yeah, sometimes we'll just have a conversation about travel or something, really. Sometimes it's quiet. But I've had I got a 40-mile ride from a cop once. I was traveling with this girl from the Grand Canyon down to Flagstaff. It was dark already. We were under a street light, which is, usually when it gets dark, your hitchhiking day's over, but we were, 40, 50 miles away. We wanted to keep going. And this cop stopped. He was wondering about something else, something in the area, wondering if we'd seen some suspicious character. And I don't know, after that, he's like, oh, I'm going to Flagstaff. So hop in and cruise down the highway like 100 miles an hour. And he actually dropped us off right at a brewery. He's like, where do you guys want to go? I'm like, Beaver Street? He's like, yeah, cool. Dropped us off right there. So yeah, police can be really cool as long as you, like I said, kind of play dumb, be friendly with them. There's people doing their job, etc. So yeah, up on the highway, it's effective. You get all the traffic, all the people going, and yeah, they're going quick, but people will stop, and sometimes you got to run 100 yards for the truck that decided to stop. But it'll be the best 100-yard dash that you ever do. So stoked. Just running, like, smiling, like, yes. And plus it's a truck, so they're going a good ways. So I'll do that a lot. And like I said, I do like to walk. And if you are worried about the police, sometimes walking is better, because if they're not giving you a ride, they're telling you to get off the highway. So if you're still right there at the on-ramp, it's easy for them to tell you to walk off. But if you've already walked like 1, 2, 3 miles, then they kind of have no choice but to give you a ride or just leave you alone. So besides those two kind of common spots, the other option is to actually go to a gas station. And this is more like soliciting, I guess, or being more personable. Go to the gas station or the truck stop and actually talk to people as they pull up and are filling up their gas. You can walk up to them and say, hey, I'm going wherever. Are you going that way? Do you think you can give me a ride? That kind of thing. I don't really like this option, and I hardly ever do it unless I really have to. Like, it's just pouring out and just trying to stay dry and hanging out for a second. But a lot of hitchhikers are the opposite, and this is really what they prefer to do. In Europe, it's kind of nice because a lot of the service stations, gas stations on the highway are only on the one side of the highway. So it's like on the northbound side, so everyone there is going north. It's not like the people southbound can stop at that gas station. They have their own, which is nice because people can't be like, oh no, I'm going the other way. Like, it's like, no, you're not. You're going this way. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, truck stop same. I like to go in sometimes. You got to use the bathroom anyways, and sometimes people talk to you. They see your backpack and they ask where you're going, and you say you're going this place. I've gotten tons of rides from truckers that way. They're just curious. They see your backpack. They kind of know what you're doing, but they'll ask. So it's a decent method, but it's just kind of a personal preference, I guess. So those are the main types of places where you can stand and go about hitchhiking. The next thing would be whether or not to have a sign. Again, I think most hitchhikers I talk to use signs more than I do. I don't always like to make the sign. I like it to kind of be, I don't know. I just go for it because I like to take every single ride, and I feel like a sign will deter people. Like if you're going to a city A, 300 miles away, and you write city A, and someone's going 150 miles, not all the way to where you're going, they might just blow right by you and be like, oh, well, I can't really help them. But to me, it's like, no, you're going 150 miles, like in my direction. That's great. So I'll take that ride, and I'd rather not have a sign be there to deter them. When I will use a sign is when I'm going to like the next city. Like an example would be if you're in Phoenix and you're going to Tucson, make a Tucson sign, because almost everyone leaving Phoenix in that direction is going to Tucson. So then they just kind of have that recognition of the sign. They're like, oh yeah, that's where I'm going. I'm like, I know. Give me a ride then. So also if there's crazy junctions ahead, then I'll try to make a sign. If I'm in a spot and like 2, 3, or 10 miles up the road is a big junction where people go left, right, or straight, then I'll try to make a sign in those cases. In toll booth situations, like Ohio is a pretty good example of this. A lot of those roads are toll roads, and there's a big booth kind of blocking, so you can't quite get past the split where the road is going east or west. You have to be before all that. So that's another good time to make a sign that simply says east or just west, or if you're going to the very next city, you could write that down too. A cool little trick for making a sign, obviously the default is cardboard and Sharpie, but if you poke around online, you can, or actually if you even just go to hobolifestyle.com, my site, and click the hitchhiking tab, I have a link to this, but it's a tutorial to make an easy little whiteboard sign. Basically you just take white paper and clear masking tape, and it almost ends up looking like a map, but then you have this whiteboard sign. You get a whiteboard marker, and it's really nice because then you can just reuse that sign all the time. And if you're standing there and whatever you wrote is not quite working out, you can erase it and then write a different direction or a different city name, like right then and there. You don't have to look around for another piece of cardboard or anything like that. So check that out on the site, or just kind of Google fold up whiteboard sign DIY, something like that. You'll find some videos, people making it. It's borderline free. The most expensive part of that's getting the little marker staples or somewhere like that. So that's how you initially go about it. As far as how long it takes to get a ride, I'm just going to throw 20 minutes out there. It's just a sort of a standard little thing. If I'm standing there anywhere trying to hitch a ride, the first 15 minutes, like nothing's going through my head as far as like, oh, I wonder if this is a good spot. Like, no, I'm still all good. And then after 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, I've been here for a minute. And definitely after an hour, I'm like, oh, okay, not really getting a ride. And it can take much longer than an hour sometimes. I've been in a spot for 3 hours. I've switched spots. Like I've waited in one spot for 3 hours, walked up to another spot, waited another 2-3 hours a couple times. Like these things happen, but sometimes it's the opposite. You get a ride in a minute. I've had times where I'm getting out of one person's car and someone sees me and stops. And so I haven't even, stuck my thumb out again. I'm already getting a ride instantly. That's the best. But generally, I think 20 minutes is pretty decent, but it totally depends on you, what you're looking like, where you're going, if you're hitchhiking with someone else. I've hitchhiked in the outback in Australia, and through Canada up to Alaska are pretty good examples of these mega roads where there's not a lot of traffic at all. I mean, there are times where there's 2 or 3 cars, trucks, anything every hour. So obviously you're going to wait a little bit longer, but when someone does pick you up, they're going hundreds of kilometers, miles, so it's kind of worth the wait. But just depends. Don't get frustrated. The more frustrated you get, it shows, and you're not smiling as much, and you just look grumpy, and people don't want to pick up grumpy people. Yeah, there's some people who they'll pick up hitchhikers because they see you as desperate or whatever, and they feel like they can help. But most people, even though they know they're helping, they kind of want to see what your adventure is all about. And if you're looking all pissed off, it's probably not a cool adventure that they want to be a part of. I've also noticed, like if you're feeling like that, like eat something. That might be the whole thing. Like go and eat something, and oftentimes that'll change the whole game. Get back out there and get a ride in no time, or drink something. It's like one time I was hitchhiking in the Australian outback, and I got dropped off around like 2 p.m. and just walked all day and didn't get a ride, and camped out that night off the road. And then the next day I was like ran out of water, and just, man, I was beat. There's not a lot of traffic. Someone coming the opposite direction actually stopped, and they're like, "What are you doing, maniac?" And they gave me a 2-liter bottle of water, and they offered to give me a ride, but I'm like, "Oh, you're going the wrong way," and it's okay, it'll all work out. But they gave me this water, and I just chugged it, and like 5 minutes later I got a ride going all day, all the way to the coast where I was going. Like literally rode with that guy all day, camped out with him, and then rode the next morning. It's like 1,000 kilometers or more. But I kind of felt like it was the water that did it. I don't know, might have just been coincidence, but I felt amazing after that water. So yeah, just one thing to consider when you're not getting a lift. Have you eaten? Let's see what else. Like clothes, I've been asked about, like what clothes to wear while hitchhiking, and obviously you want to look clean for the most part. It can kind of be the opposite if you're in like a sketchy part of the world, or a place where you think you might be a target kind of thing. If you are worried about that, like, and I say target, like maybe like you target for robbery or something. Maybe it's better to look a little more disheveled, a little more dirty. It might just help your psyche out a little bit more. But in most parts of Europe, in the United States, and Australia, I'd say New Zealand too, you have a better chance if you're looking clean and like not stinking. You can lose a ride for stinking. If you get in. A common thing people do when they pick me up is not super common, but it happened where people will tell me that they're going to the next town or something, and they're really going much further, but it's kind of a safety little thing for them to maybe not say where they're going, or just say they're going to the next town, next gas station. And that's just a way for them to kind of feel you out in case you're a maniac, or in case you stink like hell. And then they drop you off. And otherwise, like if you're clean and you're cool, then they're like, "Oh, well, actually, I'm going much, much further if you want to ride all the way there." So yeah, there's not much more to say about clothes and things. Just try to stay clean and try not to stink. Every time you get to a gas station, if you're worried that you stink, like, just go into the bathroom, into the sink, rinse out your pits and all that kind of stuff. Change your shirt if you can. Just generally keep your stuff clean if you can. It'll be good for you, good for everybody. Yeah, okay. Next thing would be getting out of big cities, which is a pain in the ass. Like Los Angeles, least favorite place for me to hitchhike in the world. Other big cities like London, Berlin, and these are mega cities. You can't exactly walk to the good hitchhiking spot all the time, or even know where the good spot is. Because within these big cities, it's just chaos. I mean, most people aren't going anywhere. They're going within the city. So, and even on that note, they don't realize how valuable a 10-mile ride could be for you. A 10-mile ride can change your day. And for them, it's 10, 15 minutes to do. But for you to like walk that 10 miles and get to that good spot is going to take you hours. Which could totally change the complexion of your day and whether you get to where you want to be that day or not. So little tricks for getting out of town. I'd say the very first thing would be to look at hitchwiki.org. And this is a website with all kinds of great information, actually. So you can look at a particular city like Berlin, and there'll be paragraphs and paragraphs of advice, where to stand. And they also have a map feature where people have rated spots, like actual spots where you can stand and hitchhike and say this is the best, and other people will comment like, yeah, this is great. And, people put bad spots on there too, like don't go here, it's not going to work out for you. So for the bigger cities, definitely check that if you're not sure where to go. And this is really helpful too if you're couch surfing or staying with a friend or someone with a car who's like, oh, if you want, I can, drive you 10 or 20 minutes to a good spot. That's huge if you're staying with someone who will do that for you. It'll make a big difference, and then it's good to actually know the good spot for them to take you. If you don't have that luxury, then your other option is public transit, which I'll sometimes do if I've got a little bit of money and it's only like $1 or $2, which is usually the case. And I'll just use Google Maps and get on there and transit directions from where I'm standing to the side of the city in the direction I'm going. So if I'm going west, I try to get as far west out of the city as possible, but still near the main highway. So try that, especially if you don't have a good spot on HitchWiki that you know about, or if you look at it and you're like, I don't know if that's actually that good. Just look at the map yourself and just try to get to that edge of the city. And sometimes on the Google Maps, I'll type in like truck stop or something like that and see if there's a really good spot. Like if it's, obviously a bunch of gas stations and stuff right on the edge of the city, that's probably the place to be if you can get there. And if you can't do that, if you don't have the money or if the public transit's not that good, you kind of just got to grind it out. Like you can make a sign that says edge of city, every mile counts, something like that, just to let people know, even if they're not going that far, that not that far does make a big difference for you. I have done a lot of walking. I like walking though most of the time, so usually don't mind. And sometimes when I'm walking, I'll just like stick my thumb out, which isn't the best way, like I'm not facing the traffic and just have my thumb going, but it works sometimes. I've noticed in Southeast Asia, it works really well to make a sign and just kind of walk, but hold the sign to your side so people can see it. And the reason I say Southeast Asia is because there's a lot of crazy, taxi drivers and tuk-tuks and motorbikes, and you got to deal with a lot of people just trying to get you to pay for a ride short distances. But if you got that sign that says something further away, they kind of leave you alone, or I don't know. It seems to work. So that's one option for getting out of the city. Hopefully someone picks you up. As long as I'm on that topic, the difference between different countries and things, I would say the United States and Europe are extraordinarily similar as far as how long it takes to get a ride and how far those rides are going. The difference is in the United States, the people that pick you up might be like, I've never picked up a hitchhiker before, or I didn't know anyone did this, or I used to hitchhike back in the 70s and I've never seen anyone doing it since. Whereas in Europe, it's a little more common or known about, I guess, for the most part. Western Europe and Eastern Europe too. So, but it takes the same amount of time. Like it'll still take that average of 20 minutes basically to get a ride. That's just the difference. In the US, you hop in the car and they think it's wild. In Europe, they're like, oh, you're just on an adventure. You're going there and I'll help you get there. A little more lax about it in general. Also places with mountains, rivers, outdoor kind of spots. You can almost guarantee you're going to have an easier time hitchhiking in these kind of spots because some people hitchhike just in their day-to-day sort of thing. Like ski towns, people hitchhike from town to the mountain. River towns, people are sometimes hitchhiking to get back to their car, their kayak, or whatever. So it's more common. People are used to it. Anywhere along major trails, like in the U.S., if you're anywhere close to the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Crest Trail, people see hitchhikers there all the time because hikers, hit the road and hitchhike into town to get supplies and stuff. And so people are used to it there. And you're just, you're going to get picked up pretty easily in spots like that. Like I said, Asia is a little bit different in the places I've hitchhiked, which would be like Indonesia, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, these kind of places. Not everyone knows what hitchhiking is all about. And often they want to take you to the bus station. You say you're going wherever, Kuala Lumpur or something, and they assume that you need a ride to the bus station to get the bus to Kuala Lumpur. But so you kind of got to explain if there's a language barrier where there often is. I've noticed the best technique is to explain that I'm walking. Just tell them that I'm walking and I have no money. And the no money and the walking part, that usually sinks in. I'll use my two fingers, my middle and index finger, to be like the walking thing, and that usually works. And then they realize like, oh, well, I'm going part of the way and that'll save you some walking. I'm like, yeah, that's hitchhiking. Other parts of the world, it's extremely common, like New Zealand, for example. Super easy to hitchhike. People are used to it. And it's also like beautiful mountains and outdoor stuff, like I was talking about, almost everywhere in New Zealand. So it's the combination of all that. So that's a really easy country to hitchhike in. Obviously, United States is pretty easy too. It's got weird reputations. If you tell the average person that you're a hitchhiker, they're like, they assume you're an axe murderer, or that you'll meet axe murderers along the way. But like I said, you still get picked up. All it takes is one person to give you a ride. Like 100 people can pass you, but as long as one person picks you up, you're cruising. So it's just a matter of waiting a little bit. Often not that long. So yeah, hitchhiking's pretty fun. It's the last thing that I would mention is sleeping along the way, and this mostly applies to long distance hitchhiking. So if you're going somewhere 2 hours away, you're probably going to make it in a day, assuming you get an early start. But if you're going somewhere that's 15 hours by car, you're probably not going to make it in one day unless you get really lucky. So you just got to be prepared for what's going to happen when it gets dark. And I typically don't hitchhike in the dark just because, especially if there's no streetlights or anything, it's just people don't see you. The vibe can kind of change. So you got to consider that you might be sleeping somewhere, and having a sleeping bag is the main thing. Something just to camp with. I use a sleeping bag and a bivy sack. A bivy sack, if you don't know, is like a super tiny one-person tent. It's basically like a waterproof thin sleeping bag, the most basic ones. Some of them have like some poles by your head, and they look more like a little tent. I think that's the best option, personally, because it packs up really small and gets the job done. Keeps mosquitoes off of you and keeps you dry. You can have a little tent too. If you're hitchhiking in pairs, one of you can carry a little 2-person tent. You could just have a tarp. That depends on the weather you're hitchhiking in. But if you're, traveling indefinitely, then you basically just got to carry everything with you at all times. So my sleeping bag is good down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What is that in Celsius? I don't know. Below zero anyway, by a little bit. So definitely have some sort of way to camp. There are other options for sure. If you get dropped off at a truck stop, for example, sometimes there's trucker lounges where you can kind of go in there, sit and stay up all night, or nod out a little bit until the morning. 24-hour diners and truck stops. You can kind of grind it out with coffee or find a place to sleep nearby. But yeah, having the sleeping bag and stuff is critical in my opinion. I don't know how else you would do it in some situations other than just being cold, wet, miserable. But the best thing that can happen is someone offers you a place to stay, which is definitely not a given, but it happens more than you might think, where it's getting late and someone knows you're going another 500 miles, but they're stopping where they're stopping, and they're like, hey, I've got a couch. If I don't know where else you'd be sleeping tonight, so you can sleep in my place. That's happened quite a bit. And if you're going a really long distance, I would say I've hitchhiked back and forth across the United States dozens and dozens of times, and some of those times have been pretty direct, like I'm in New York and just want to be in California with no intention to stop anywhere on the way. And that can take, up to a week, that trip. And a trip of that distance, you can almost guarantee that someone along the way is going to offer you a place to stay. You can almost guarantee, too, that at least one of your rides is going to be like 1,000 miles plus. Like, you might get 20 rides across the country, but one of them will be like half of all the miles. But sometimes truck drivers pick you up and they've got the bunk beds and you can sleep in the truck overnight too. So that's an option, but yeah, I can't say it enough. Just have some kind of way to camp. Yeah, it's pretty much hitchhiking. Man, been talking for a while, but there's really nothing to it but just to do it and have fun. Yeah. You'll meet all kinds of people. You'll have all kinds of stories. And you'll have your own little tips and tricks and start to pick up on all the little subtleties and what gets you a ride. So, enjoy. Cool. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That's kind of the way I'm going to be doing a lot of these episodes, is recording a big chunk of whatever it is, this time hitchhiking, and then go back and record the intro and then the outro. And yeah, I think it's gonna be a pretty good flow. We'll see how it goes. The next episode, hopefully I'm gonna get a chance to record here pretty soon if I'm staying in some of these rooms and whatnot, get some quiet spots. I'm thinking of doing the next episode on couch surfing, specifics about that. Later I'll do a whole episode on all kinds of options of where to sleep and stuff, but yeah, we'll see, unless I change my mind. That's what the next one's gonna be about. If you want to email me, I can read some stuff on air, questions and whatnot. This part of episodes, just questions at freestyletravelshow.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Free Travel Show, without the style, just Free Travel Show. And Facebook, Freestyle Travel Show, freestyletravelshow.com. Obviously my own personal stuff at hobolifestyle.com. All kinds of good stuff there. About a decade worth of stories. And please rate and review this podcast on iTunes especially, but all over the place, whether it's Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, whatever you're on. If you rate it, review it, it helps more people discover it, which is huge. Yeah, that's about it. I did mention I'd say a little bit more about the Google Project Fi. Again, my code there is... the code that you can use to get $20 off is TDW3EE. And it is really cool. I'm liking it. So just a little more detail about that is that it's, they charge $20 a month for unlimited texts and calls. And then they charge $10 per gigabyte that you use in data, which isn't the best if you use a ton of data, but for most people it's perfect, and they prorate it or whatever. So if you only use 100 megabytes, for example, then you only get charged $1. And yeah, the big draw to the whole Project Fi thing is that it works pretty much all over the world. So if you're traveling internationally constantly, you don't have to screw around with getting SIM cards anywhere, and you got the same phone number everywhere. It's pretty cool. This is my first time traveling internationally with phone service. Usually I just, whenever I leave the United States, I cut off the phone altogether and just jump from Wi-Fi spot to Wi-Fi spot. And yeah, it's kind of nice just to have service everywhere. I've also noticed a lot more lately that I have stayed in hostels or I go to little places where there's backpackers cafes. The second they hit Wi-Fi, their head just goes down and they disappear. You're no longer talking to that person. And I guess that's just a trend that's going to happen indefinitely. I don't know, until something changes. And I've done it too. You got no Wi-Fi for a long time, and all of a sudden you do, and all your messages pour in from friends and family and updates and stuff, and you want to check it out. So that's the other reason why I've been liking this Project Fi thing, is because I'm just getting all that stuff passively throughout the day. So when I do get to a hostel, if I do choose to do that, or a cafe or something, it's not like I'm getting this big wash of information that I have to then blank out the people in front of me. I'm just coasting along, hanging out, enjoying life. So yeah, that's it. TDW3EE Project Fi. Go sign up if you want to. If not, no worries. All right, I will see you on the next episode. See you down the road, everybody.